Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, August 20th Board of Finance meeting. Sorry, there were a few minutes delay. We're kind of waiting for some people to come in, or maybe due to the rain. The first thing is I call the meeting to order, and I do not think we need to seat alternates. We have Christina Malhos on Zoom, and we're expecting to see the alternates come in. I don't think we're gonna need to seat either one of them though. So we're waiting for one board member to arrive that I think is gonna be here momentarily. All right, so let's go to approval of minutes. For the April 7th minutes, we can just focus on, I believe, the special meeting that followed the annual budget hearing was already approved. It's showing up that way in minutes. But I don't think the budget hearing itself was. That came in, those minutes came in after I did. So is there a motion to approve the annual budget hearing minutes of April 7th?
So moved.
I'll second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Can you turn your sound up and we'll just hear you, Christina?
Oh,
Thanks.
can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so that's a 5-0. I guess we should do we need to do a roll call on these? I think so. Shall we back up and start, or is that one okay since it was unanimous?
It's your call. It should be a roll call. You have people on now.
Let's do it. Let's do it as a roll call.
Okay, Ms. Summers,
Yes.
Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Let's go to the minutes of May 21st, regular meeting minutes. Any discussion on that? Move to accept the minutes of May 21st.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
And we have Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
I abstain. I wasn't there.
Mr. Brunel,
Abstain. I wasn't there.
and Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
and Ms. Summers,
Yes.
and Mr. Ross. I'm sorry, you said yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. 301, 30, 302, thank you.
Okay. Minutes of June 18th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from June 18th.
Thank you. I'll second. Any discussion further? Roll call, please, on the vote.
Ms. Summers,
Yes.
Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Abstain.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
and Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, meeting, minutes of July 1, special budget meeting.
Move that we accept the minutes.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Any further changes? We should say changes at all. You ready for a vote? Okay,
Ms. Summers,
yes.
Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
and Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Meeting of minutes of July 16th, regular Board of Finance meeting. Those were few and far between. I'll move we accept those minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote.
Mr. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Abstain.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
and Ms. Summers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is there any abstentions on that one? No. Yeah,
Yes, there was, Mr. Lawler.
okay. And now to the minutes of July 30th, that was a special meeting, special budget meeting.
Okay.
Let me know if you see Walter, come on.
I do.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I move, oh, go ahead.
I was just motion to accept the minutes from July 30th.
Second. Any discussion further? Those were sweet and nice and short. Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brunel,
Abstain.
Ms. Mallows,
Yes.
Ms. Summers,
Yes.
Mr. Lawler,
Yes.
and Mr. Ross.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, would that be a 401? Thanks. Thanks. Okay. I think we can. Keep right ahead. Present to speak. I'm gonna ask folks, although it's not a huge crowd either in here or online. If you could keep comments to try to be under 5 minutes tops, because we have a lot of discussion and a lot of presentation tonight. And I'd like to get to that. So, anyone on Zoom who would like to speak? You'll get another opportunity at the end of the meeting, as is our routine. Anyone in the room who would like to speak? Pete,
Peter Altinchich, 97 Trask Road. Good evening.
good evening.
Understand on your agenda tonight is the discussion of the school project. And I'm assuming costs or finance. And what I would ask is that you focus very carefully on what the actual cost is for the bond school building committee recommending the town take out of the project. What is the cost of each year of the bond? And what it is at the end of the 20-year period. So we have an understanding as taxpayers on what that cost represents. I attempted to ask this question at the board of selection meeting Monday night, and it created some confusion. They were including offsets to that cost. Things like application from surplus, capital funds, lower operating costs for schools. We all recognize that could or could not happen depending on what happens in each budget year. What we would like to understand is the actual cost of that bond schedule individually each year, what that mill rate impact is, and what it is at the end of the 20-year period. So if I'm a Wellington resident and in year one of the bond, my taxes are X, and at the end of the 20-year period, my taxes are Y. We understand things can happen from year to year, things like revals and surplus applications that you guys engage in every year. But right now, I think it's essential for townspeople to understand the actual cost of the project. And I look forward to your discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in the room or on Zoom, either one? If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. Or if you're technologically challenged, like some of us are, just yell out. Okay, quiet crowd tonight. All right, let's move ahead then. Old business. I'm gonna kind of do an update for you all on this. The situation is that, because we went into 4 referenda and there were some, we had to send the tax bills out before the budget passed in the 4th referendum. We you know, the selectmen set a sort of hold the place, mill rate of 26.30. And, we are in the process of figuring out what is our collection rate likely to be within the tax collector, a job which is open right now, so there's a little slow on the research there. To see what's reasonable to augment bring it up to what the budget actually required originally for a mill rate. Because we are going to probably have to use a lower collection rate. It's unlikely we're gonna be at the status quo, just based on the confusion of follow-up tax billing, plus interest rate loss and things like that. So it's not gonna be a humongous thing, but it may be a tenth of a mil kind of impact. And before we do that and then have to change it yet again, I think it's best that we not do this. But if you guys want to discuss anything on that subject, I'm open to doing that. Are there any reactions or questions about this process? Did I explain it okay, Sherry? Like you,
Very well.
do you have anything to add?
What was that?
Do you have anything to add?
No, you worded it well. Yeah, we need to, it's a little tricky without a tax collector to figure out some things.
All of these things will be resolved.
We're working on that, yeah.
So if we wait a while, we're gonna be able to come closer to what it actually should be.
Right,
Yeah, and I don't think we wanna go, oh, let's make it this, and then go back and go,
right.
oh no, now we need to do 200 of an adjustment, it just doesn't make sense. And I think too, there's a question about, without the tax collector here, when that timing would be for augmenting bills to go out. I'm sure there's some science to that is beyond my ken, so. That's where we are. Okay, you see Lisa or Eric on there.
Not unless they're Samsung.
Okay.
Samsung, XM,
I don't see them either.
either.
So, okay. Cause I can see one of them, I don't know what's locked and been held up, so let's see. Okay. So moving on. I'm gonna ask Kathy to do a presentation. She's representing Kathy Demers. She's representing the Conservation Commission, and this was an item that was on the last town meeting agenda. I wasn't at that particular part of it. I had to leave early, but my understanding was it was an interesting exchange with people. We do live in a rural community, and we don't at this point have any separate ordinance that affects a tax exemption for farmers on farm machinery or buildings. So,
Thank you.
your intro.
Good evening, everybody. The Conservation Commission, as you know, is charged with protecting the natural resources and preserving farmland and forest land in town. And so the commission has been working toward efforts to help preserve farmland in town and farmland soils. And the tools that we have in our toolbox include some state statutes that allow the towns to exempt farm buildings and farm machinery. So what we're proposing is that the town consider some ordinances based on statute. And maybe the easiest way to walk you through this, because we sent you a lot of material that went through all the statutes and things, is if you want to, pull up page 4. We have 3 ordinances. One of them is the right to farm ordinance, which would not have any impact on taxes or grand list in town. It's really just a reiterating the Connecticut statutes right to farm act. And that's something that we discussed with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they're fully in support of it. It is in compliance with our plan of conservation and development. So that really is not something that I think that you might be that interested in. But I think the 2 other ordinances that may impact the grand list would be something you would want to discuss tonight, so I can walk you through that. So on page 4, under the 2 proposed farm tax exemption ordinances in Wilmington. Proposal number 1 is to provide additional property tax exemption for farm machinery. Currently by statute, the first $250,000 of assessed value on farm machinery is currently exempt from taxation. Farmers do need to apply every year for this exemption, and they need to certify on the form when they're applying that they have at least $15,000 in expenses or revenue. So we currently have 6 farmers in town that apply for this exemption. Statute also allows, so that's mandated. The town has no control over that. We have to give that exemption. Statute allows the towns to provide an additional exemption from property tax on farm machinery to another assessed value of $250,000. So in essence, if you have farm machinery worth up to $500,000, you could get an exemption if towns allowed the $250,000 additional. So what we're proposing is that, excuse me, that the town consider establishing an ordinance that would allow for the additional exemption of $250,000, or actually whatever. The way we've written it is the maximum extent of an additional assessed value allowed by Connecticut statute. And that currently is an additional $250,000 on the farm machinery. If in your packet, we provided you with a chart that was developed by the tax assessor. And it shows the 6 different farms that currently apply for the farm machinery exemption. It looks like, paperwork looks like this. It's kind of a spreadsheet without all the lines. And you'll notice on this sheet that the 6 people that are applying for this don't even have farm machinery at this point that's worth $250,000. So anything that they're applying for, they're automatically tax exempt. And having trouble finding any packet, I have copies.
It's the last page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it printed out for you, so, because I sent it, if you need a copy of it, I have copies.
Yeah, so
So if anybody needs a copy,
I got it.
you got it,
Yeah.
okay, great. So just, to establish, what's already happening in town, of course, we don't know if other people will step up to the plate and want to apply for the exemption, but this is what we know at the moment. So currently, taxes foregone are about $5,400 because of that. That's a state mandate. So, but we're proposing to allow an additional exemption, put it in as an ordinance so that if there are people in town who would like to increase their farm production, or new people might be encouraged to come into town. For example, like a dairy farm might want to come into town. They have farm machinery, milking machines, coolers, lots of very expensive equipment. This would be a way maybe to attract new business in town. The second proposal is on farm buildings. So the state does not mandate that towns give tax exemption on farm buildings, but they allow towns to exempt up to $500,000 assessed value per farm building. So that might be barns, sheds, sugar houses, anything that's considered agriculture related. Again, anybody who would be to be eligible for this, you would have to apply to the tax assessor every year. And you have to certify that you have up to at least 15,000 in sales or revenue. So if you're a hobby farmer and you've got bees, you know, and you've got a little shed around them and you're not producing, you know, you don't have expenses that meet those requirements, you could not qualify for this, for example. So
Expenses or income.
expenses or income of 15,000, yeah. We're, encouraging the town to consider adopting an ordinance that would allow a tax exemption on farm buildings to the maximum extent of an assessed value allowed by statute. Right now, that's $500,000. The way we're suggesting that our ordinance be written is that we don't qualify a set amount, but we allow it to be whatever the statute allows, because 10 years from now, that could increase to support farming. There are other towns that decide they just want a defined amount rather than to leave it open like that. And that would certainly be up to the town to decide what they wanted to do, but our recommendation is to leave it open to whatever the statute allows as a maximum. So there's a lot of, you know, reasons that we feel this is important. We understand that there's, you know, potential, and again, by looking at this spreadsheet that our assessor provided, the people that are eligible for farm machinery right now, the only way she could project potentially how many people might qualify for the farm buildings exemption would be by using the ones that are already exempt for farm machinery, because those people can show 15,000 in revenue income. And so you can see on that list, the assessed value of their buildings at this point. And potentially, if those 6 people applied for the farm building exemption, there could be a loss of tax revenue of $13,000. 13,600. Again, this is projected based on what we know. So the way that the conservation looks at this is farmland provides a lot of benefits to the town. It keeps the space open. It's important for, you know, food production. It provides rural character to the town. The cost of services for farmland compared to like a subdivision, you know, taxing our resources, whether it's our education system, our emergency response systems, is very low comparatively. So by keeping farmland undeveloped, in some ways, you could say that we're reducing the cost for services in town as well. So those are some things to keep in mind, you know, as to why this would be a win-win for the town, even though there might be a little bit of loss of revenue on the grand list. We're really protecting the town in some ways in the future.
Thank you, Kathy. Are there any questions?
I was gonna say, it seems like a really noble cause. And preserving farmland certainly is, you know, worthy of our efforts. I was gonna say that saving $13,000 doesn't seem like it would be a big draw to bring farmers into town. But I think when you follow it up with your evaluation that there's a much lower service load on farm properties, and that if you look at the whole area, you're probably reducing, you know, the cost per acre of town property just by maintaining a farm. That's certainly a plus.
If, you know, it's very possible this could attract new business to town by having an exemption on buildings. If somebody, or they wanted to expand their business, they might want to put up a sugar house in town. They might want to build a larger barn, bring in more livestock. You know, invest in the town and the farmland we have now, but potentially also bring in new business. So these are the tools that we have, that towns have to adapt business, and I know that in the Economic Development Commission's strategic plan, their draft plan, they noted that, you know, farm and farmland can bring some economic, rewards to the town. It's not huge. It's not like putting a brand new, you know, warehouse in town, for example. But, it has a lot of benefits in many, many ways, to the townspeople who really want to preserve the rural character here. So,
It's gone in the right direction.
yeah. Farmers are struggling. It's very expensive, to keep a farm up. We probably have one farm in town where they draw their sole income from farming. And the rest of the people that are doing some type of agricultural production are doing it, you know, on the side and have to have a full-time business because you don't make a lot of money at farming. So,
It certainly is a big, element in our plan of conservation and development, but one of the things I want to point out to people is if you look at the town by town reaction to the farm ordinances and what they're doing, the ones that are stipulating what they're doing, most of them are, the lion's share looks like it's at 100,000 for, additional on the farm. When it has that plus 100,000, it means the 250 that's already mandated and then the 100,000 value on top of that, that would be open to exemption. And then on the farm buildings, a lot of them are, that's you know, a ceiling of, as Kathy explained it, 500,000. A lot of the towns are just leaving that open and I guess going case by case if they're asked for an exemption. But most of these are suggesting 100,000 exemption, like they're cementing that into the ordinances. And that is per building, so if you have multiple buildings, could be, I don't know what the deal is with the Riding Farm, I believe it is, if that's one building or if that's multiples.
multiple buildings,
What's that?
multiple buildings.
Multiple buildings, okay. So, so my concern is to be in full support as much as we can be, but I think it's also, since this is the first time we're actually tapping into this water, and I think what we're being asked to do is maybe advise about how to, you know, what the financial levels might be, but we're not doing an ordinance or anything like that. That's the selectmen who decide that. It goes through a process with the townspeople to approve that ordinance. That's that's town legislation. So we're here to advise along the way. It's just getting the lift off now. I would put out there a suggestion of maybe getting a little experience with this first, because I would not, maybe be a little more aggressive if we were not flat on our business and commercial revenue. I think it's a good idea to maybe walk before we run. Although running's good, but but show the farm community that we are in very much in support of their enterprises. So what I would think would be a good start is for the farm machinery, the mandated 250 plus add an additional 100,000 in valuation that the town would offer an exemption for, so up to 350 instead of the 500,000. Because that's a new piece that they just added on the farm machinery, that extra 250, right?
It was 100,000 that was allowed to be additional, and it just went up last year to 250.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, so to do that, but that is a mandate, right? As opposed to a recommendation.
Right, the first 250 is mandated, and then towns can add an additional exemption.
And that's what I'm suggesting, 100. I mean, just for us to have a discussion point. And then, and on the farm building, that is one where it's open, and I'm thinking 100,000 per building. Which would be most of even the one outlier in our farm community that has multiple buildings that might be applying for that. Let's see, are there ideas? Who's got their hand up there? Can you guys see?
It's the
Um,
It's the.
it says it's Brenda Wilds.
Hi,
Hi.
yeah, yes, what, did you, we're in board discussion now, so, did you have something that you wanted to ask it,
I-
this, to the
If
issue?
Kathy, I don't know the appropriate time to speak on this, but if I'm allowed to speak, I would love to speak on this.
Okay, well, we could have heard it from you at the first, but I think is it okay with you guys? If we hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank Kathy for all of our work on this, and the reminder email that she sent out to the farmers this morning. For the record, my name is Brenda Wilds. I am the third generation to operate Mahalik Farm on Mahalik Road. We own 120 acres and farm, approximately 180 acres. My parents and my grandfather used to be dairy farmers. I am now a livestock and hay farmer, and I fully support both the machinery and the building ordinance. Machinery is something that is going up exponentially in cost. I recently unexpectedly had to buy a new haybine. And when I say new, it was a 12-year-old haybine, or I'm sorry, hay baler. It was $16,000, and that was not in the budget. But in order to operate my farm, I had to do that. Our farm will now own 2 hay balers because if just like today, the rain came in earlier, we had to get it baled. So if something were to happen to one baler, it's imperative with our weather and our season in Connecticut to get things done quickly and efficiently. I know I'm under the threshold for machinery, but we keep adding to the farm. And that is one of the things that is important, is to be able to operate our business and to be able to afford to make improvements, but not have to worry about the tax implementation or implications that would happen. Speaking on the farm building, currently, I just actually wrote my check out today to the town of Wellington to send in. We will be sending $4,800 in that amount for our farm and the vehicles that the farm owns. A portion of that is our farm buildings. We do have one very large building that was our freestall barn and our milking parlor. We have another shed. And then we also have a smaller storage building that kind of runs down. We are looking at adding another building to our property in the future, given the economics of everything. And that would be a machine repair and a building to store more hay and house our beef cattle in the wintertime. And so we're looking at NRCS grants for the housing of the beef cattle. But all of these things come with money involved in it. So our farm has been in Wellington for almost 100 years. When my parents passed away, a lot of people asked, if I was going to sell the farm. And I said they never knew my parents if that was even a question. We want to remain in Wellington as a farm forever. Our development rights are not sold. It was something that my parents never believed in. They thought that a farmer should be able to make money without having to sell that option and not to saddle the next generation with a decision that they made. But we have no inkling ever to develop our farm, but we also need to be able to make a living off of it. My husband works full-time on the farm. My job is actually a high school agricultural science teacher at Lyman Memorial High School, where I'm the animal science teacher and department head. So I am fully immersed in agriculture. And I think the right to farm ordinance, which is not going before you today, but the farm machinery exemption and also the building exemption would be a huge benefit to my farm in being able to move it forward and continue for the next generation.
Thank you for that statement and that insight. That's a good example for the board for one farmer in town that has some longevity. I just want to ask at first, as far as your ID goes, did you get the spelling of her name by any chance, or? Would you spell your last name for the record?
Oh, I sure can. It's actually Wilds, Wildes.
Thank you. Then you got the first name. Okay. Thank you
Yep,
very
Brenda.
much. Appreciate it. We're gonna go back into board discussion now. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yes.
I would also like to share, but wait to the end of the.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, because
Thank you very much, and I have a copy, if you're taking notes, I can leave it with you. My name is Kelly Barber. I own over 50 acres in Wellington, 47 Turnpike Road, and I own a sugar bush on Tinkerville Road, so I also support the farm changes that have been proposed. It will help me keep my land in agriculture. And my future intention is to expand my business in Wellington. And these changes will allow me to do that. My farm supplies maple syrup to 14 schools, including Wellington. So the kids in school have had my maple syrup as part of their meals. The recent product safety issues nationally are a very true reminder of how important it is for us to support local farmers and to understand where our food comes from. My land is part of a 500-acre forest block connected to the Fenton Ruby Park. And Kathy can talk about all the challenges and all the work and the volunteers that has to be to get together and organize to just maintain that property. So I'm maintaining my property that connects to that, and I manage it for it to be a healthy forest with no cost to the town. When I bought the Tinkerville property, they actually gave me 2 plot plans. And one of them was for an 18-lot subdivision, and I chose to keep it in forestry. So as you're thinking about putting together the costs associated with this, feel free to use my property as an example. So if I didn't take this property and move it into forestry and manage it, what would be the impact to the schools? So for 18 homes, how much more students would be attending the schools? What's the cost associated with that? How does that impact the school budget? Sure, there's a public works cost associated with it. So if my lot had turned into an 18-lot subdivision, I'm sure there would have been impacts to maintenance of the road, plowing, paving, and drainage. With 18 new homes, if these homes, are there impacts to things like police, fire, and EMS coverage? So when you have new residents like that, that impacts multiple services across the town. So keep that in mind when you're trying to do this careful balance of the money that's coming in and maintaining the farm environments. When you have property like this, that usually can be turned into subdivisions. It tips the scale a little bit in other areas. So this is an opportunity for you to have a little bit more control on some of those costs that could escalate. Some of these farms might be susceptible where farmers aren't able to maintain the property and it gets sold. These changes only apply to agricultural buildings and equipment, so it doesn't impact the homes. It can be phased in. It's going to require annual review, so it will be something that you can manage as you go. And if it doesn't look like it's working back, you can rein it back and make adjustments. So it's not like it's something you put in place forever. It's something that you can review and manage annually. And keeping this land in agriculture is really going to help you avoid costs for road, water, sewer, and emergency services. And it's going to cost a lot less in developments. Thank you for volunteering your time and listening.
Thank you. Okay. So Christina, did you take all that in? I just wanted Lisa. I think you guys are online. I just want to be sure you heard.
Yeah, I'm good. I think everyone has said all the things I was gonna say. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Are there any questions online there with you guys or? Okay, let me know, just unmute if you do wanna enter in on the discussion. At the table, are there
Yeah,
points you want to make?
yeah, so I really support what you're asking for, because, you know, farmers have it tough, they don't make a lot of money. The reason they do farming, a lot of them, is because they just love doing the farming, that is it. So I think anything that we can do to make it less of a burden for them on taxes, that we should really consider doing it when it comes to us to do it. And the main point that you made, that both of you made, is if that property is developed into houses, we are going to spend far much more money in revenue for services to those houses and neighborhoods than the money we would be losing by giving them these exemptions.
I think she made that point too. Jason, anything from you? The way I'm looking at this is, that the way I'm looking at this is not to necessarily go to the maximum, because I think particularly since the building part of it is per building, I'd be a little bit concerned if there was some development that we weren't fully aware of that was racking up quite an impact. And in terms of, and I guess I don't really see us as a town going, particularly if we're doing ordinances, going case by case and kind of going, oh, wait, we want to draw back on that one. As a kind of quick case by case thing. I don't see us being outfitted to do that in a small town that doesn't have a lot of oversights or things like that. I guess what I'm saying is, given what the picture is now, I think it would be a good idea to amp up in a clear, upward trajectory over time, but not start up and then scramble to go, whoa, there's some bigger farms coming in that we weren't aware was gonna have this impact. I'm just being sort of judicious about, the way I would handle, my own business. As far as, that kind of thing. Or projecting what the impact could be. I think it's still, right now, I think it's a pretty, I know that people probably have future plans for expansion. And I think that could be well timed with a review of what we would, and this is a recommendation, and what we would recommend now, what we would recommend in the future as more farmers are applying for this tax relief and see how it's working, engage it. But I think just going out of the chute, I would be more comfortable with a more moderate approach, considering that the farm building one is per building. And so if you have multiple buildings, that could rack up.
So we should just suggest 100,000 towards machinery?
Well, that's in addition to the 250 that's mandated, so 350 total, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I would suggest.
Okay.
Rather than, the state's giving opportunity to, to grow it, but it's you can see from the town breakdown, there's really no one who's doing that yet.
This would be under the Board of Selectmen, this isn't up to us.
It's definitely, but they're asking us for review, they're asking us for recommendations, so that's what I'm.
I personally will give you a recommendation.
I think we're all wanting to give a recommendation and support.
Yeah.
So for the purposes of making it official, is there a motion? Or do you want me to get something out there for discussion further? Christina? Okay.
I motion that we support the farmers in town and that we let this go to the Board of Selectmen for decision and that we should support it. No motion.
How about a recommendation?
I think they're asking for more than that, Bruce, but is there a second on Bruce's?
One second. I think we need
Where are
more.
we? Yeah. Okay.
I think we need to.
I don't think that's,
include it.
I don't think that's specific enough. I don't think that's what we're being asked to do. Because we're not actually handling the ordinance process. The selectmen handle that, but they are asking for a guideline from us. And a review of us, which is why Kathy's here and why we're looking at this.
I think that helps put us in line with the way other towns are dealing with it. As far as the level of support.
And it puts us ahead of several that haven't weighed in, so. You don't know what they're saying, no exemption, or they don't have anything. They don't have anything specified.
It'd be up to the board of selectmen to offer an ordinance, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
And
that,
they could
because
even change
it would
the
be,
number.
ordinance writing is a legal thing and, you know, a thing that the selectmen handle. We don't do ordinances.
Ultimately, they could even change the number if it's just a recommendation. So but I think you're right, and we should provide something in that arena. That's kind of,
I'm expecting that this would grow over time.
yeah,
You know, I just think to go to the maximum immediately when we haven't had any experience with it directly, I think seems a little aggressive.
and it's easier to add to than to take away.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And perfectly comfortable doing that. I'd like to see a little other activity on the, you know, on the landscape before we go quite that far, but. Lisa? Christina, you guys have any further thoughts or questions? Kathy's still here. You wanna ask?
Well, I'm just wondering about Bruce's motion. Are you looking for us to have a motion that says we endorse these proposed ordinances, or is it just general support?
I think what we're asked for is, yes, that, but, you know, but to look at, in particular, at the financial, detail of it, of what an ordinance would be and recommend what you think there. So right now, there is no dollar amount you know, recommended. So it would be case by case as
Right.
applications.
So we can't really use a dollar amount in a motion or even, I mean, we can in a estimate or a projection, but like they've done, but
What do you mean, why wouldn't we? They're asking for recommendation of where we would set the, you know, for a new ordinance, where we would set the bar. Are you saying just don't do that, or? In other words, at some point when they're writing an ordinance, they're gonna need to decide, are they gonna say up to the state maximum? Are they gonna say, you know,
right.
so they're asking us for a financial recommendation.
So what and they need that from us.
So another thing to consider is on page 4, like Kathy was pointing out to us. Conservation Commission recommends that the town of Wellington adopt an ordinance. To provide an additional exemption for property tax for farm machinery. We could endorse that and we could, you know, stipulate that we think 100,000 would be a good amount to recommend to the board of selectmen for an additional exemption on farm machinery.
Right, but that's with no ceiling. What conservation is suggesting. They're not evaluating though I mean, I don't know, Kathy, you want to share anything more about discussion
Yeah,
there?
when we discussed this in conservation, we decided we, you know, would like to see it maxed out to whatever it is by state statute. But we understand, and so right now, there's a bar by state statute. The limit would be $250,000 additional for farm machinery. So we were just saying, the ordinance was written so that whenever the statute changed, it allowed that maximum amount. But that's not something that you have to do. I mean, other towns have set a bar in their ordinances that says, additional amount of 100,000 or 250,000. So,
And in addition, I mean, so they're already talking, their maximum right now is 500,000 on farm machinery. And then, correct?
if you add the mandated with the additional allowed,
It's 250.
Yeah, but that's what they're, there's a mandated amount in that case and not in the other.
Correct.
So they're both up to,
500,000, if you looked at what
Yeah.
the town could be on the hook for,
right,
that's the way you want to look at it, yeah.
right.
Look at
And
it,
that is, and again, that's 500,000 per building. So if you have 3 buildings and you want to apply for relief on all 3, that's the thing I'm saying is that
well, something to consider, okay? We can't even maintain the roads that we have now. How are we going to maintain more roads if developers come into the town?
I don't think
That's-
anybody's arguing that fact. I think what she's trying to get at right now is, do we set a bar so we can't go above that? Or do we just go with, okay, recommend just going to the full 250? We're all in agreement that we wanna support this. Nobody's saying nobody's arguing against it. Right now, we're talking about the minutia of where are we comfortable with setting the bar?
Right now,
Because
only
we're talking
one
about
town-
a tax exemption, you're talking about potential development. And I don't know of any large developments on the table now, so in a way, that's moot. Yes, I know what the point is, because it's been made several times, what if farmland
Well,
were developed in that
okay,
way?
so
I don't think that's a clear and
we have no
present.
So
development
what exactly should the motion be if we're going to be supportive of this conversation and moving it to the selectmen? I mean, that's where we're at. So what should it
Just
be?
a little bit more clarity. There's only one town that has added an additional 250,000 for farm equipment
Right,
exemption. Everybody else is at 100,000 or has nothing.
right. Exactly,
So we would, there's about 8 towns that have no additional. We would be part of about another 8 towns that would be allowing 100,000 additional exemption towards farm machinery.
right, and the same on specifying the buildings. There's no mandated amount, it's just, it allows an exemption up to 500,000. So in that's slightly different the way it's written. So there's nothing that, that's required by the state at all, per building. But there are some towns who are saying, yes, we'll do it at 100,000 each. No one's doing it at 500 as of yet, but that's,
except Ashford does.
Ashford does, I'm
Yeah, per
sorry.
building, yeah.
Yeah, Ashford. Ashford does that plus 250 on the machinery. They have a large farm
So
community.
I want to make a point. So we had our reval and the price of the taxes went up on people who had raw land with no houses or anything on them. So after that reval, you saw a lot of properties, large pieces of properties going up on the market because people could not afford to pay those taxes. So somebody's gonna come along, they will develop that property. The guy who bought the property next to me, he bought 60-something acres. He owns 3 other parcels of property in this town. And he plans on developing that at some point. So anything that we can do to put a hindrance to people coming in and setting up developments is going to be less expensive to us in the long run than what are really small tax exemptions here, at least for the existing farms.
I'm just saying they could be a lot larger if you just leave it, open. Because 500,000 a building is a pretty big exemption.
But don't
And
you
that
want
also
farmers-
invites kind
don't
of-
You want farmers to get bigger?
Well, it depends. I mean, would I want like, a major agribusiness to come in with a lot of, warehouse-like buildings? No.
Well, you don't even think there's going to be development. If there is no development on the horizon, but you think a big agricultural concern is gonna come in, swoop up property in Wellington.
Why would that be prohibited? I'm guessing local farmers are somewhat concerned about that happenstance. I don't know.
Oh, we're looking at this as two separate issues where you have an exemption for machinery, then you have another exemption for buildings. So if we have an exemption for machinery, does not require that we provide an additional exemption for buildings, other than what the state mandate is.
The state doesn't have a mandate under buildings.
Okay. So
The
we
state
don't
says
even
up
have to,
to,
we
yeah,
don't even have to address that right now. We could just address the machinery.
but then you're doing a case by case. Yeah, we are. I mean, I thought that it was maybe generous to go ahead and add 100,000 there too, but that's why I'm recommending an amount. Because
Yeah.
we're being asked to give guidance for that.
Well, can we work a motion where we start at $100,000 that we recommend that the board of selectmen do that? But not to go beyond an additional $250,000. That way the board of selectmen can decide it. I mean, this isn't something that we're
We
deciding.
can state,
here and
we can
everything.
we can state it differently, I think,
Yeah, you would just.
I
have
mean,
to
that's
amend
what,
your
that's more what we're being
motion.
asked to do.
Mhm.
Is to establish some guidelines, monetarily for an ordinance. This is not an ordinance that would never be adjusted again. This is an ordinance that would be revisited. What I'm saying, if you do nothing, you're leaving it open to, oh, this person gets it, this person doesn't. I think it behooves us to be wise to do an ordinance. I don't know, Kath, do you have any kind of,
Well, I think, I think how can I put this, as a resident on one side, I'm concerned too that if you leave it open to whatever the statute allows, I mean, the statute hadn't changed for like 20 years from the previous amounts, so they don't change every year, the maximum amount. But, if we leave it open, the benefit of that is the town doesn't have to go back and redo their ordinances every time there's a change in statute. But it also, on the other side, you're not sure what's gonna happen in the future with how many buildings that we might put up. Could that be more taxes off the grand list than you really want? Because once they're here, you can't suddenly change your ordinance that month, you know what I'm saying? So I hear what you're saying, that maybe to put some guidelines in, I think our commission would be in support of that. We didn't know where to set the bar, if you will. And so we leave that up to the people that are, in charge of, ensuring financial stability in town. I think whatever support you can give to the farmers, even if you set a bar for what the limit would be on the assessed value in the new ordinance, as you're saying, you can change that in the future. So that would be totally up to you and the board of selectmen ultimately, but you can recommend that certainly.
okay, thanks. There is a motion on the floor, so,
Would you be willing to amend your motion to put, that, like 100,
Put a threshold.
yeah, with like 100,000 for now, knowing that we can go back and change it later?
as a recommendation, again, I mean,
We're all in support of it, we're just looking for a recommendation, if not. we
I
can
mean,
go through the
I'll
whole
put it to you this way, okay, if another motion was made and it was just for $100,000, I'm not gonna vote no. Okay, because that kind of behooves you what you're requesting.
I'm just trying to expedite the process a little bit instead of having to go through a roll call vote and, because we would inevitably vote that one down because we're looking for a recommendation. If you just amended yours, we could just vote.
Okay, so let me ask a question, okay, so they've got the assessed value of the properties here. So I see what you're saying, so what do you think the threshold should be as far as the assessed value of the property? where they stop getting the exemption.
Well, what I first suggested, before you made a motion, so if you wanna go
So-
ahead and,
Well, no,
okay.
so what do you think that?
What that was that, okay, on farm machinery, the state mandates 250,000.
But I'm saying it's just,
And, yeah, if you just, if
Okay.
you just listen.
Yeah.
250,000 unassessed value is mandated. I'm recommending that we put 100,000 more on it. So 350 total. As as a farm machinery potential exemption. And on the farm buildings, which have no minimum. But they have a maximum, they have a ceiling of 500,000 to stipulate 100, or to recommend that we do that. We offer tax exemption for 100,000 per farm building.
Go for it.
Well, no, you want, you're asking,
Well, I'm
Do you wanna
telling you,
amend
if
your-
I
do you
make
wanna
a
amend your
motion,
motion?
I'm not going to amend my motion.
you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw my motion because I'm not going to amend it down to an additional $100,000. Because I'm just not in agreement with that.
All right. Well, if you want to amend your motion, otherwise we'll vote on it.
Well, I'm gonna keep it at 250, the additional 250,000.
500.
500,000, yeah.
Okay. I'll move it again then. I move that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen to pursue the farm machinery and land tax exemptions. And for the machinery to offer up to an additional 100,000 over the state mandated 250,000. And for the farm buildings to allow tax exemption for 100,000 per farm building.
Second.
Is there discussion among board members?
No.
Any at the table?
I like being able to increase it incrementally as we go along, instead of starting higher and then, being concerned about what conditions are like in the years going forward.
I think we're ready for a roll call vote. Unless anyone.
Mr. Russ,
Yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes,
Ms. Summers,
Yes,
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
and Ms. Malice.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
thanks, Kathy.
Thanks a lot, Kathy. Okay. So the public works issue, this is not really a need to discuss the item itself for the reason that is lined up. It is, it's a purchase through leasing, situation. So I think you've seen the, and it does not require going to town meeting, therefore the leasing amounts are ground into the fiscal year 26-27 operating budget that the town has approved. So this is usually how we handle the leasing of vehicles. Is there any motion on that? I think we should state the amount.
How does it spell out the dates of the leasing and the payments?
Roy? He's still on
Yeah.
there. Hey Troy, do you want to speak to that, how it spells out the leasing?
It's just in our line item that basically every year that it gets appropriated in the budget. That's all. It's in our lease, just like our trucks get leased out. It's just added on to that.
Right, it's an annual amount.
It's an annual amount. Yep. I believe it goes out to bid, I believe, to be like the leasing, how it will be paid for. And then it will be either, I think, a 5 or 7 year lease, I believe. That'd be more of a Sherry question, I would say.
Do you want to weigh in, Sherry?
Not to, up into that.
I think what we can do is cite the quote price, the John Deere price, and if we want to move this ahead, which we've been asked to do by that. The selectmen.
Could I ask Troy a question?
Sure.
Troy, how often do you use this piece of equipment?
Quite a bit we use it. I mean, we use it to load the trucks in the wintertime. I mean, if there's storm damage, we constantly use it. I mean, we're moving rocks, logs, and we have forks for it. Yeah, I mean, it's used, I don't want to say every single day, but it's used probably 3-4 times, on a weekly basis, during the day to move, depending on what projects we're, doing.
So it's used offsite as well as at the Public Works?
Yeah, I mean, we use it for snow removal. I mean, it's used in the wintertime. It's basically, I mean, whatever we need to load trucks with. If we're doing a project, we haul dirt, material from our pit with it, pick up logs, move logs. So it's being used.
Okay, I'm gonna move that we advance the loader purchase through leasing as qualified in the town's capital improvement plan and as applied to the fiscal year 26-27 operating budget.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Roll call, please. Lisa?
And Mr. Ross
Yes.
and Mr. Brunel
Yes.
and Ms. Summers
Yes.
and Mr. Waller
Yes.
and
Christina?
and Ms. Melhouse.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Done.
Oh, no. Well. All right. Thank you very much. I'm gonna be a little more self-indulgent. It's still fair to letting more people have that.
That? We did.
All right. So, thank you very much, for having me in on behalf of the school building committee. I'm excited to be here to give you guys an update on some of the recent developments since we were last year before you, to discuss the project and go through some of the financial data that we've developed, looking towards referendum in September. So Lisa, if you don't mind, I'm going to try to share. Beautiful. But that's beautiful. So since we were here, I think we were here mid-July, 5 or 6 weeks ago. And at that time, when we left, so as you're aware, we've been the school building committee since January. There's really been hard work developing a variety of consolidated preschool through grade 8 project options for town consideration, resulting in this this time limited increased reimbursement rate that special legislation has afforded us. So up until July, we were developing several options, and I presented financial
preliminary financial analyses for each of those options is what that budget impact look like. At our meeting last week, not 2 weeks ago, on August 10th, the school building committee made the formal recommendation to advance a single project option. It's the option on your screen here. It was new construction on new parcels. Immediately adjacent and connected to the existing home memorial school site. That followed significant opportunities for community feedback, both before the school year ended with teachers, staff, community, students, as well as a polling session that happened since we last saw you, which also further supported this. At 78% of the people that had participated in the polling over the 2 days that the school building committee had established. This was the preferred recommendation by those that came out that day.
How many people actually came up with?
It was 244 total over the 2 days, which for Willington, I was pretty excited about it.
We had 5 times that for the referendum.
Bruce, can we keep questions till after he gets a
Okay.
chance to present, and then we can.
So with that said, the school building committee met, we further discussed with our consultant team, and we made the recommendation, for a variety of reasons. This project affords the opportunity for any work, obviously, on the whole school site. First, it affords adequate land for a consolidated pre-K through grade 8 school project. Secondarily, because they are connected to the whole school site, it maintains eligibility for any work to the existing whole school property in support of an educational project. It makes it eligible for the same reimbursement. This was a big change, and the opportunity of this site was a big change from prior efforts many years ago. It's unique. It was one of the unique portions of this site, and it really allows the town significant cost avoidance should in what to do with that property, because it is covered under the grant, potentially covered under the grant application. So beyond that, it has access to utilities. We obviously have the existing school there now. It's right off Building Road. It has direct access to River Road. It allows for the construction to be isolated from the existing educational environment during construction and throughout the project until the building is ready to be occupied, which was also very advantageous. Just being able to isolate that work is also more cost effective. So these were the variety of options that drove us to this selected option. One of the big changes that happened between the last time we met and now, and I will zoom in on this a little bit. So the prior reimbursement estimate was 1.25 points lower than this. As of August 1st, the state updates its reimbursement rates for all municipalities annually. As of August 1st, our effective new rate went up 1.25 points, which was wonderful because that's 1.25 percentage points of additional reimbursement back on the total project cost. So that's one of the bigger changes in the numbers that we had preliminarily discussed last time, and this time it made a significant impact. It dropped the net cost of town down by $800,000 or $900,000 after the inclusion of geothermal. That alone was a significant factor, which is great. So you'll see that 64.58% is our base reimbursement rate from the state. In addition to that, because of special legislation that we got in the last 2 legislative cycles now ago, we get 15% additional reimbursement specific to Willington, which was wonderful. And then through the work of the school building committee in conjunction with our state representatives, we got a couple other special pieces of legislation this year. But I'm jumping ahead. The early childhood education bonus, that is another 15-point percentage increase that is available to every municipality if the school construction project contains spaces for early childhood education and preschool age and up, which we qualify for. And we've got confirmation from DAS about that age eligibility range, which was wonderful. So that brings us up to the combined, and confirmed 94.5%, 58% state reimbursement as really the threshold for, what we can get. The state does cap the percentage at 95%. So we are pretty much, and I think, we're as high as we can get pretty much. We are also locally, or regionally, we have this reimbursement is the highest reimbursement rate, of any municipality, around us. In many cases by a significant margin. This is really an unheard of opportunity and unheard of a once in a lifetime opportunity for this type of reimbursement from the state. So that is really the focus of this effort, is making sure that before this special legislation for Wilmington expires on June 30th, 2027.
Jim, what you just said there, you said it was it's maxed out at 95, is that what you're saying? Okay.
That's the highest it'll go.
Okay.
And because this is new construction and it is proven to be cheaper than the cost to do an addition renovation project, there is potentially the opportunity that we could get the full 95% on this, but we can't guarantee it obviously before referendum, before the formal application. So we're not counting it. You'll note that everything, the way we've structured all of this is to be as conservative in our position as possible. The budget carries adequate contingency. But I'll get into that a little further in, when I get to the actual budgetary analysis. So the total project cost, through an estimate through our consultant team, was $98,640,000 after the state reimbursement. That total town share goes down to only $9,080,000. Which is, you can tell how significant that incentive is. Just to give you a sense of timeline here. All right, I'm trying to minimize some of these other Zoom windows on my page. So as I said, we were targeting September 29, 2026 for a referendum for funding approval for project approval by the town for the consolidated school project. The grant submission needs to be in by June 30th, 2027. The design phase is anticipated to be about 18 months. So they'd be breaking ground in the middle of 2028. And this, one of the other advantages of new construction is the construction duration is shorter. So it's anticipating 2 years of construction before the building itself becomes able to be occupied and used for its intended purpose by the town. So renovation options, one of the renovation option was double for construction. And that's not to say there will be some additional site work after that 2 years. And that's captured in some of the cash flows, but that's kind of the high level of what the anticipated projection is. We worked really hard with both the registrars and other town agencies to work the schedule around all of the upcoming events in November, including the elections. There are very limited windows of time that work for the registrars where voting machines weren't tied up in either early voting or the primary that we just had. So the September 29th date was a viable option, and it's what we're targeting. So everything, including this meeting tonight and some of the other outreach to the other boards that we've had over the last few weeks, are really being driven by that target date. We are, I believe the Board of Selectmen just called a public hearing to be on September 8th for this project, and at that time they'll may have consideration of a town meeting probably a week later. We'll have time for the referendum, but that'll work out over the coming weeks. Okay, so let's get into some details on costs. So when I last spoke with you, and this summary, this is all public, I sent you, you should have received as a part of the pre-meeting information, a debt servicing schedule from the financial advisor the town is working with. My mouse is not, so hold on one second. Which I will share
It's,
So the debt servicing schedule is, it looks something like this. I apologize for the small font, that's the way they prepared it and sent it, and it's just.
yeah, a lot of it's on the other.
Correct,
the other-
yeah, so
this
we tried to
one.
summarize it and I'll go through the other graphic, but we have it available for specific questions. All of this information is up on the school building committee's website already, obviously.
Was that the 812 document? That's what I'm looking at on the website.
It is correct.
Thank you so much.
We also provided the project budget as prepared by our OPM. Which is what drove, that obviously defines the project costs. He's also, oops. Sorry, I hate working from one screen. That project budget drove a cash flow analysis that they also prepared that was utilized by the financial advisor to generate this debt servicing schedule. The strategy, so that the total project cost, that over this total project duration, there are varying cash flow needs on an annual basis, on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, that the town will need to fund as the project progresses. So once work is complete, once we pay an invoice, we then submit, and the reimbursement from the state is is throughout the process. It's continuous throughout the process. So we submit, should be done quarterly. You submit invoicing for work completed or work that you paid to date, and then usually within 2 months, the state will reimburse the percentage of the project up to the percentage of what you've submitted for payment. So that cash flow, we're never fronting the full project costs at any one time. You're getting reimbursed and then using that to offset the payments for the next time. So that's how that works throughout the process. Ultimately, you are bonding the final cost to town, which is the $9 million figure. So $9,080,000 is what the bond amount will be. But in the interim, until that project is realized, you're funding the day-to-day costs through short-term notes annually until such time as the project is closed out. This strategy, what we've, and I'll go back to something that you can read better on screen. Here we go. So summarizing this, $98.64 million total project costs, 94.58% state reimbursement of eligible costs, $9 million and $9,080,000 to town. And I'll zoom in a little bit on some of this so that we can walk you through it. So this takes those costs on a year by year basis and assesses some of the impact. Just as a note, the debt servicing assumes a 20-year. I want to make sure I get the term right. Level principal, thank you. 20-year level principal, which is advantageous because it cuts the total cost of the financing down to the town. This could be done in 25, most 30-year terms are uncommon. Sometimes you can do 15. The 20 was a good balance through consultation with our financial advisor. We actually ran the numbers 2 different ways as to what year the bond would hit and have chosen the most advantageous of those scenarios, meaning the lowest cost to the town for total project cost and financing and annual budget impact. And what's really important is the way we structured this, and this hasn't changed from any of the prior conversations we had with you, is structured this in a way so that it utilizes the capital reserve savings that we have, that the town has accrued $3.6 million, including this most recent budget year. And we're projecting the CFP plan obviously has another $1 million slated for that initial $5 million commitment that we're a little short of, but so we're projecting that additional $1 million. But so it uses that $4.6 million reserve savings to offset the cost of that short-term financing so that there is zero cost to the town related to this project until such time as the new building is completely operational and able to be used as a school. And that was really done to afford the opportunity to realize all of the operational savings, both from a building efficiency standpoint, reductions in heating, cooling costs, better thermal performance of the building envelope, more efficient energy systems, really reducing that operating budget. You'll also capture reductions from other operational spending like transportation costs. Are factored into this as well. We work with the Board of Education to really drill down on what items in the budget would be impacted by by a consolidated school project. But also operational savings in the Board of Ed budget, which I know has been a hot point for a number of years now. The efficiency of consolidating two buildings into one offers efficiencies in staffing that is unrealizable otherwise. Or at least not realizable without significant impact to the way education or the way the schools are run now. So we did work through with the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed prepared two different scenarios of that. Obviously, one reflecting what those operational savings are projected to be based on today's current enrollment. The other scenario of this projected what the operational savings would be should we reach the projected enrollment of 519. That is what the professional, the enrollment study, the enrollment projections done by the professional demographer with the Board of Ed enlisted, projects out 8 years. And that is a requirement of the state as part of the grant process. They require an enrollment projection study to be done. They allow for, in their regulations, the highest enrollment year in an 8-year span to be utilized to calculate your space standards. It's less applicable to Wellington because we got special legislation because of the small town penalty. Buildings, the formula for the state that calculates the allowable area for reimbursement is wildly skewed against small towns because certain large volume of spaces you have to have, whether there's 300 students or 1,000 students. So it's always.
And by that, you mean like hallway space and common
Cafeteria,
areas?
you're gonna have a library, you're gonna have a cafeteria, you're gonna have a gym. You know, like all of those spaces they're kind of set sizes to be functional. So that was another piece of legislation that we got. So there are, if you go over that space standard, which any project we would have conceived would have had to do by default because there is no way to meet it really in a small district like ours. But we got spent through the assistance again of our legislature, our state reps, they're able to get additional legislation from Wellington that waived that penalty or that space requirement, which was great. So we get to capitalize on that full 94.58%. There is no space waiver discussion that some of you remember from the last time. That was really the goal of the committee, to get as much certainty on our reimbursement as possible. So it is 94.58%, but again, we're structured so that when the building is operational, which happens in the fall of 2030, under this construction timetable. So as of the fall of 2030, you'll notice that, and if you can see my cursor, you can't probably. The $374,110 and $210,000, that is the savings anticipated at 519 student enrollment on an annual basis from the budget as it exists today. The 210,000 is operational savings and building efficiencies. That number goes up. Again, we are conservative in these. That's at the full enrollment capacity. If we wind up not hitting that target, the operational savings goes up by another,
That's significant.
$300,000 annually. But again, we're trying to be the conservative picture. We feel it's appropriate to present the worst case scenario to the town, so that as the fairest analysis, we hope and expect to be able to improve on a lot of this. But that's where it stands now. So what you'll see, and I'll walk you through this now line by line. Each vertical column is a fiscal year. This current fiscal year that ends June 30th of 2027. The only cost associated with this project is the cost of issuance of a short-term note to cover design and initial project expenses, that would happen following referendum. The Munistat, ones who prepared the debt servicing, assume that the note origination is happening in February and then the debt is realized the following year. So we'd be taking a note, to cover costs for the next fiscal year, anticipated costs for the next fiscal year, and then that payment becomes realized after June 30th. Meaning, so that's why you see, so the note is taken in 2027. We realize the interest on that payment in 2028. That's the $107,700 at the top line here.
Mhm.
The next line down, that is how much of our capital reserve for school projects we'd be utilizing to cover that debt, which leads to a zero change, net change in spending related to the project itself, and zero mill rate impact. That trend, I'll do the bottom lines in a minute, but that trend continues for the next 3 years after that. The peak financing need, the peak, where we're spending, where the project's really in high construction and there are a lot of costs associated, are really in 2030 and 2031. So you'll see those payments. Obviously, that shows the notes are larger values there. But again, we have reserve savings that can be applied to cover the cost of that project all the way through fiscal year 2031 with zero impact, zero cost to the project. And I will note that 2031, even though there's still zero cost to the project, 2031, that school is fully operational. And at that point, we can capitalize on the operational savings and the efficiencies. So there is a even greater fiscal benefit there for a year, which is wonderful. So in 2032 is the year where we exhaust that $4.6 million in capital reserve funding. So that is the first year where there is actual cost of the bond to the town at $742,000, which is based on the 2025 grand list, is only 1.13 mils of impact. But the reason we structured this way is because, like I said, in the year prior, we're already achieving all of the operational savings. So it is intended, it was done that way to offset the cost of that to the town to reduce or eliminate that impact. That trend continues. The highest year it actually goes up in 2033 to a high of $786,000 cost to town. At the end of the 20-year bond, that payment is only $468,000. That is the bond payment in the year 2049. So much like the library bond, it decreases over time annually. So there's additional budgetary savings year over year once you get past the highest point of the bond, the peak year.
So the last 10 years, it's on the decline.
At the last 17
Even
years of
before
the bond.
that.
Yeah, so in this instance, the bond is actually, we're pulling the bond in 2029. This is the way they have it structured. So in 2029, we're actually pulling the bond of $9.9 million, give or take. There's also a short-term payment, short-term note payment. So, but the advantage of it is, while there's zero impact and cost of town, we're actually paying 2 years of the bond with the reserve savings as well. So the first 2 years of the bond payment are captured in these costs in the year 2030 and 2031. So when we start seeing impact, we only have 18 years left of that 20-year bond, which ends in 2049 would be the final payment. And so every year beyond 2033, that goes down incrementally, much like the library bond does or did, until the bond payment is no more. The lower lines here, and we wanted to represent what the goal is to represent what the true budgetary impact of this project was, of all of the factors related to this project. So on these line items, there is a cost of issuance annually to pull the bond or pull the note. We did get that information from the financial advisor, so that's a $50,000 payment, this year, 50,000 next year for the note. In the year that we have the bond, and the note pull, it goes to 90,000. So it's 5 years of cost of issuance in the $50,000 to $90,000 range annually. The next level's down, operational savings.
And then that goes away after that?
That, yeah, there are no, we're
As of
done
this-
making, we're done taking out, any debt obligations after, fiscal year 2031. Which is the year that the building will be open and we can capture operational savings. So the next two lines, this is the annual savings at 519 enrollment, assuming we hit full projection. $374,000, that's savings to the budget annually. $210,000, that's operational savings for the building efficiencies annually. The next line is the school reserve transfer. That is the $1 million transfer that we've been doing annually. With this project, with this financing, that $1 million a year payment obviously is able to go away. So the budget will see that reduction, or it affords the flexibility. So it's $1 million that comes off of the budget because we're not making that transfer, capturing that transfer annually anymore. What that really does and why we've structured it this way, one, because the town has made a commitment to the 5 years and we didn't want to extend, we were going to extend carrying that savings further. But two, it offers, I mean, that's the big advantage of that is it offers some budget capacity for the town to start to address other needs like the fire department. Cost, tax reductions, which would be wonderful. But that is related to this project cost. That is a real cost that we are going to see reduced out of the budget because of this project. If we can't pass the school project, if we can't pass this consolidated school project, based on other work that I think I've spoken with previously, but the cost to repair those two schools is significantly greater. And the reality is that $1 million is the cost of the first round of projects annually, and that will stay for 20 years before we have to attack it again several years later. The cost to repair the schools, should this fail, is significantly greater in any conceivable scenario than this consolidated project, which actually offers budgetary savings in total because of these high reimbursement rates that we're never going to see again. So what that does in the end, we get several years because we're losing that $1 million where we see a reduction in the budget even after the financing costs of $910,000, $935,000 from our budget today. That jumps in the year before we start seeing payments. Before we start seeing the bond payment hit. We capitalize that operational savings, so we have a year in 2031 where we can see $1.5 million in budget reduction through this project. And then once the bond hits, it goes back down and it obviously increases as the bond payment increases year over year or reduces year over year throughout the life of the bond. The reduction in the budget kind of increases. So that's broad strokes. What I will say is there are other fiscally advantageous elements that we haven't captured in this yet because we can't guarantee them prior to reimbursement. For example, there's utility incentives that are anticipated at $800,000. It's a one-time deal, but $800,000 upon completion. That is a rebate that comes after the fact. So after project completion, it usually takes a year or two. That's not factored into this. That would just be kind of a boon in the out years as an offset to the budget, offset to the project costs. How it was applied would be up to the town. There are any bond premium incentives, like when they shop this out, sometimes there are incentives. That's not factored in here. I don't honestly know that much about it. I'm not a bonding agent. We were just told by our by municipal that, no, that it's not factored in here, and that is an additional opportunity for savings. These numbers assume, full expenditure of the project contingency to be captured in the budget. There are several $1 million worth of contingencies for unknowns, changes in the warrant. It is highly unlikely that contingency will be fully expended. It is not typically fully expended, at least through the consultation of our OPM. That is his experience, and they do numerous projects annually throughout the state. So there is the opportunity we won't fully expend that, and that would be additional reduction in the total project costs shown here. And then the enrollment, whether if we don't hit 519, that could be an additional annual operational savings. So there are a lot of factors in here, and I'm probably not getting all of them. I personally think the building efficiencies portion of this and the reduction in energy costs could be significantly greater than what we're showing. But again, we're being purposely conservative because we don't want to overpromise, because it does nobody any good. We've put the values that we can validate and support and defend in here. So it's, in all cases, what we're trying to, this is anticipated as the worst case scenario, and we're hoping to be able to improve somewhat notably on that as the project develops. That is, I can go over any details of the financing. You let me know. I'll stop there and let you guys talk, because I am tired of talking. But if you guys have questions, the committee's always happy to answer them. We've worked hard to get as many answers as we can, and we do have most of them.
Okay.
To the extent they're available. So yeah, I'm happy to hear your thoughts, and we have some other committee members in the room, and Superintendent
I think we're
Stevens.
probably gonna go into questions, to the point of, the full impact to the taxpayer. It's the reason that it looks like a net is because we've got that, that savings, that capital savings every year that we're tapping for this project.
Yeah, that's a,
I don't know that that's as accurate of information, since that's already ground in. You know, we want to know what the real tax impact is, the net impact is to the taxpayer.
yeah, that's,
But do you have anything that shows what the gross outlay is? I mean, I don't know if that's
over the total life.
way
of
to
the
say it,
financing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's in the debt servicing schedule you have here. The total cost over the 20 years.
like 16 million or something.
The total bonded amount is 9.08 million, give or take.
Right.
Over the life, the total interest, including all of the note premiums and the full life of the bond is 6.8 million. The total bond principal and interest is 15,890,000 over the 20-year life of the bond.
That light pink column, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not the. Yes, this is the total proposed. So these columns, just to walk you through it. The proposed debt service, this is the annual change versus what we have today. The next column, the darker magenta, that shows our existing debt service.
Okay.
What I didn't mention, the library bond obviously retires. There's $153,000 that'll come off the budget. Obviously, it's another budgetary impact, but it's not related to this project, so we didn't show it.
Okay,
When they do debt servicing plan, they will capture your composite debt service, meaning, so if the library bond, we're continuing, we'd say library bond added to these figures, but the library bond isn't over. And this project won't start until after that's fully retired, which is great. That's what we want, right? The next column in the blue, this is the amount of the 4.6. This is the offset, basically the capital reserve savings. That's the offset. And then the net impact of the far right column, that is the costs of the debt service prior to any of the offsets for operational savings, the retiring reserve fund. So like I said, and it's, as it's shown in the other diagram, it's the highest cost here is $786,000, the cost of the bond. And that summarized, that's year 2033. So that's 1.19 mils for a $98 million school project, for 4 offsets. And then after the offsets, we're likely to see significant budgetary reduction rather than any impact at all. So,
When the specifications for the project are written, will it include retention specifics as to how contractors and subcontractors are paid?
oh, you mean retainage?
Retainage.
Yeah. That'll be a standard. It's usually, it's typically 5%. In my experience, sometimes it gets reduced when you get closer to substantial completion to 2.5%. That'll all be managed, comprehensively by, both the owner's project manager and the architectural team, as well as the school building committee. But yes, so retainers would be in. There is an audit period with the state grant, which is also factored into the cash flow in these, meaning, there's a year after construction is fully complete and the project is fully built out, the state retains 5%, of the reimbursement until it goes through the audit process. That is factored into these cash flows as well.
How about the window of responsibility for contractors for work that's identified as being substandard after the completion, just in case something does get by?
So there's always warranty periods, for any work. It's usually the date of substantial completion. So when the project is considered substantially complete minus punch list items, smaller items that usually kicks off the warranty period. That would be a year is common. Certain things will be great. A year of workmanship. Obviously materials have their own lifespan and warranty period depending on what products are used. Roofing, 20 years not uncommon. Flooring may have a 10-year. That'll all be product specific. So if anything happens from manufacturer defects or notice, those will obviously be covered. But the workmanship is usually at least a year, if not more. But that'll be part of the contract for construction.
We have a process for approval of methods and materials.
Yeah, so following voter approval of a project, assuming we get there, well, immediately the next step of the school building committee will be to onboard or solicit for OPM services for the duration of the project. The current contracts that we have with our OPM and architectural team are through this grant application effort. And that's done purposefully because their work is not eligible for this reimbursement until after approval by the town. So the main contracts for that work want to happen after voter approval. So we will resolicit for their services in a similar process that we did to onboard those teams now. So we'll onboard an OPM, an architectural and engineering team, and a variety of others, obviously, that will help implement the project in town. The OPM will be the primary. They will have construction oversight on their team. They will have financial auditing and they will have those financial roles as a part of their team as well. The architectural and engineering team will be responsible as well for reviewing all invoices and progress for payments. And then ultimately those recommendations will come through that team to us at the school building committee. I believe that's how it's set up for approval, that the work is in compliance. So they
obviously
regular
diligence
oversight.
saves us a lot.
Correct, yeah, and that's forethought and good planning lead to better outcomes. I can't imagine any world where this isn't a construction manager at risk type of project. So even the contractor will be onboarded during the design phase. And that's really done to help identify potential issues and with procurement, long lead time items, it helps them identify where the potential costs are and be a part of the solution. To flesh out, like if he can tell me that aluminum panel costs are going to be exponential and seeing high costs, we can look at alternative, the design team can look at alternative products that would be more cost advantageous and don't run that risk. That's the advantage of bringing them on board. So it's a very thorough and comprehensive process. And there are milestones at every point along the way. schematic design, design development, construction documents, where budgets are prepared, estimates, professional estimating is done to make sure that the contractor's pricing and third-party independent pricing is aligned. So it's an effective process with quite a number of checks and balances all along the way. And then at the completion of design, ultimately there is a grant maximum price that, not to exceed price that the contractor comes in, but we're working to this budget all along.
Let me grab a question from Christina.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Jim, I just was wondering about when I'm looking at this chart, the first year, which is this current year that we're in right now, why the CIP funds going into CIP aren't on there.
So it could be. Oh, no, I get what you're saying, because this doesn't show funds going into CIP. This is just showing, this assumes there's $4.6 million in CIP, and we're withdrawing from that. So you see the deduction or the offsets in this row.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So we don't capture the offset in CIP. We got $1 million going in projected as a part of the budget in this coming budget season. So that would be in the fiscal year 2028 budget. So
Yeah.
offsets of that 1 million don't start till the following year, when we no longer anticipate that happening, fiscal year 29.
Right. Okay, I see what you're
So
saying.
there is the $1 million is covered in here because we're not capturing it as the offset, but we're really only drawing down off of that 4.6 million in reserve to
Mhm.
cover the short-term
Okay.
finance project and the cash flow needs through construction.
Okay. It's just like to
It's a lot. I get it.
yeah, no, but to say that there's nothing being like this year we did put money in in savings towards this. I mean, it's not we weren't sure what we're saving for. Just so I can see that distinction, but I don't know if there's a way to show that or to help explain how the savings is being used, but it does make sense when you get to the bottom line. So
Yeah, so the savings is basically being a direct drawdown to pay. It's this line. So when you total all these up, that's your $4.6 million all told.
yeah,
And it gets us all the way to 2032,
yep.
which is past the point where the
Inclusive?
buildings. And that covers that.
Exclusive.
I'm sorry.
Is that inclusive into?
It's part of
2032?
part of 2032. We have $460,000 left of that, which are applied to offset, which brings it down to that 742.
Okay.
So Jim, though, is next year, does it mean that the plan is to put $1 million into CIP, but take 700 out?
Yeah, so the net would be correct.
Okay. And then the next year
The-
we'd put
the
$1 million
expect-
in, but take 267 out.
Well,
So
the next year,
I don't know.
the next year we don't put $1 million in.
Oh, right, we don't, and that's why that number
And
is
that's why, and
negative.
that's $910,000, you'd say.
Yeah.
And we could also, we could look at whether or not the debt servicing cost of issuance, there's 50, 90, 65, 65, whether that was pulled from the reserve fund as well. That's not typically run in the debt servicing
Mhm.
schedule. That's usually paid outside of the project.
Yep.
I think there would be justification for being able to do that if we wanted to really offset the $50,000 and we didn't have another place to pull it, but
Mhm.
that's not the way the debt servicing was set up, so we just want to be transparent, to make sure that we're accounting for it.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great.
Thank you.
And then the other thing I
go
was thinking of is the offset costs, starting in whatever that year is. I can't see it.
2031?
Yeah. in theory, they're subject to inflation, right? So it could, you could put an escalator on those numbers each year, going forward.
Yeah, I mean, correct, but we didn't.
Right.
No, it's, so, yeah, those savings that staff would conceivably be paid more in 4 years, and those savings would be greater as it,
But they're not
rather
really,
than project, we have we know what the values are today.
yeah.
So that was used as the point of comparison, rather than hypothesize. The
Yeah,
only thing
the
that
only
is,
thing I would worry about is people think it's compounding or it's not really compounding, and in the second year it becomes more of a not necessarily a savings, but just a cost avoidance. And
yep,
but it's splitting hairs because when you're looking at the bottom line, that's really what matters. So
yeah, these are costs annual, yeah, it's not compounded, meaning they're, if I'm understanding you correctly, this
Yeah.
is the impact compared to the budget today in each given year. So we're not, the net change from our budget today in year 2030 is $935,000. In year 2031, it's $1.5 million reduction.
Yep.
So that's, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It's not, and I appreciate that. I thank you for humoring me. I know this isn't there's a lot of information, and I get this isn't something that, this isn't the type of project the town is very familiar with. We haven't bonded anything since the library 20 years ago. I get that there is hesitation, and I get that it can be scary. There are a lot of numbers. We are trying to be as open and transparent with the data as possible. It's all out there. And all I can say is if you have specific questions, we are happy to get you specific answers. That's been the goal all along. So
Other questions on the board
don't cry, Jay.
or online? If you want to, Lisa. You, Bruce, have any questions? Lisa, any questions from you? Okay.
What I will, if I may, I will leave you, this will be an upcoming mailer that's coming out just as a reminder for some upcoming other opportunities for the community to engage. We are working towards the next big community conversation event, with our architects and OPM. This will be a big one on Wednesday, September 2nd. That'll be a presentation by the team about this particular project and the, all of the budgetary impacts and detail to the community. It'll be at Hall School in the gym. There will be childcare provided, snacks for kids so that parents can attend if they so choose. But it's really the opportunity for people to be able to ask questions of the professionals that have helped us do this work as well as the committee. So that's an event we're trying to get the word out of now. So
Is that the main big one? Yeah, what time is that one?
it'll be 7 p.m. Up to 3 hours, but obviously we'll go as long as there's good conversation and questions in the room. We're happy to share, but that's really the focus is on this specific project and to offer an additional opportunity to ask questions. As I mentioned, the selectmen scheduled a public hearing for Tuesday, September 8th at 6 p.m. and it's going to be held at Willington Hill Fire Department in the meeting room at 24 Old Farms. And then these next 2 dates are tentative. Those will be set by the selectmen at a later date.
Did you say 6 p.m.? What?
6 p.m.
For that one?
For the public hearing, excuse me. And that's another opportunity for the public to come and discuss the project in the public hearing format like we do for ahead of any referendums, but
Community meeting is September 2 at 7.
correct.
The Board of Selectmen is September 8th at,
Public hearing is at 6 p.m. on September 8th.
okay, and that's at Town Hall?
That
No,
is
that's
at
the
Wellington
Wellington
Hill Fire
Hill.
Department.
It's gonna be a fire
Community-
truck.
You'll get this in your
Okay.
mail, we'll share it all over the place.
I thought I heard it wrong.
And then you had another.
It's air conditioned compared to the most recent town meeting we had. And
That's not the
Yes,
end of
it
your
is.
list of dates,
Yes,
right?
it is.
yeah, no, so, and then these will be set, so these are tentative, but the targeted date for town meeting would be, Tuesday, September 15th at 7 PM. The Board of Selectmen obviously will discuss and make that formal recommendation at a later date. And then at town meeting, the, targeted referendum date would actually be set, but we are targeting, Tuesday, September 29th for the referendum for the funding approval for the project. And again, we will share all of this. You'll probably get it in 15 different feeds. And I'm sure the town will push it out as well.
And you don't have a place for the town meeting yet, or you?
That'll be set by the selectmen, I assume. It'll be
Okay.
at Old Town Hall, but I don't know because.
Is that might be a bigger than usual one? Yeah.
Correct, so they haven't established that, that's up to the selectmen, where the target is the 15th. And unless you guys have questions about the date, I'll stop sharing.
Additional questions? Okay,
And I do believe I sent you some language or the motion.
yeah, we
Is
can
that-
wear down in 20,000 pieces of paper.
We're looking for the help advance.
I know, some of it.
Put us in position for the grant application process.
And all of this has to be in one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like to do it?
Give it a shot.
Don't screw it up. And by the way, it's item number 4 for the record on the agenda that has to be recorded.
With full paragraph.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
I make a motion to send this to the Board of Selectmen.
Just read it.
The Board of Selectmen has referred a recommendation for approval by the town of an appropriation and borrowing authorization to fund the costs of the design, acquisition, construction, equipping and furnishing of a new approximately 101,520 square foot consolidated pre-kindergarten through grade 8 school to replace the existing Center Elementary and Hall Memorial Schools to be located on land adjacent to the existing Hall Memorial site located at 111 River Road, including the acquisition of approximately 18.8 acres of land comprised of 3 lots and related site improvements and work, the pre-K through 8 school project. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Finance, having reviewed the proposed pre-K to 8 school project, hereby recommends that the town appropriate $98,640,000 to fund the costs related to the pre-K to 8 school project and issue its serial bonds or notes and temporary notes in an amount not to exceed $98,640,000 to finance the appropriation for the pre-K to 8 school project or so much thereof as may be necessary for such purpose after consideration of the amount and timing of state grants and aid to be received for the project, which are expected to result in an estimated net project cost to the town of approximately $9,080,000.
I'll second, but can I make a friendly amendment there? Just because this is state wording and it's gotta be precise, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That it should say in the 5th line down to the existing Hall Memorial School, schools left out. And in the first line of the second graph, now therefore be it resolved. Sorry, but that is state wording.
All right.
Instead of it be, is that okay? I mean, I think we should probably do that. I don't wanna
Yeah, yeah.
mess with this
No,
just because it's dictated
As
wording.
long as I don't gotta read it again, I'm fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that okay with
The
the,
language.
those concerns?
yeah, no, I'm,
Stuff that amendment?
Accept it.
Okay. Further discussion? Been moved and seconded. Okay. I think
So,
we're-
I have one question. So, okay, the very last sentence where it says cost to the town of approximately $9,080,000. Shouldn't have something after it plus bonding fees too. Or
I mean,
bonded.
interest.
Yeah, because the people wouldn't be paying just $9 million. They would be paying interest on top of it.
I think it's similar to it's comparable to the previous number that's repeated 3 times of 98,640,000 total. We're not adding what that would cost to pay for if it were, if
Yeah,
we
but-
took out a loan for it or financed
It's
it.
the project cost of the town, not, it's the project cost of the town. If the town had $9 million, they could pay that, and that's the project cost.
Yeah.
It's not
Right,
cost of
you never
financing.
put financing in on the original price.
But you're not, all you're putting in at the end is plus interest on the bond.
This is like dictated wording from the state to have this go through the process of referendum. I really don't think it's something that we should amend, even though you're suggesting something that to your mind is the best, is a more accurate picture. It's sort of statute driven, and I don't think they would include the interest rates. It's like, it's
Maybe it's
still,
more something for
You're not
discussion
including the
when
interest
you're
rate.
informing people, as opposed to trying to meet their specified wordage.
What's that?
Maybe it's something to be expounded upon when you're explaining to people what the eventual cost would be, but not to try to apply it to their specific wording in the state document.
because it can vary, first of all. I mean, we don't really know it.
Very.
What's that?
We're not stating an amount.
Yeah.
We're stating that there will be interest on top of that.
Mhm. I think it's comparable with what the ticket price is. It's like, it's gotta be paid for in some way, but like Jim was saying, if we had the money on hand, we would pay it as we went. If we had more of a reserve, we might choose to do it that way.
I am not bond counsel,
Yeah,
but you're
I
authorizing the funding of the project costs, and then obviously the anticipated cost of the town. Cost of the project down, direct cost of the project is down after reimbursement.
the price tag versus the,
Correct.
further discussion, questions online? Okay. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Mr. Ross,
yes.
Mr. Brunel,
Yes.
Ms. Summers,
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
No,
Ms. Malhouse,
Yes.
motion passes 401.
Thank you very much for your time and your collaboration, guys. We will have many more discussions between now and referendum, I'm sure, but also, should the project pass, this will be a recurring.
Okay.
So,
Lisa, I think that vote is 410. Okay, just wanted to, it just went,
That's
it was stuck in my brain for a minute.
my
Spinning
apologies.
around. Okay, thank you very much, everyone on that.
And if any questions come up after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Okay, I did want to ask if the Adams had anything they wanted to add.
Yeah.
I
think you're the guys, right? that-
I
From the
I think
SBC.
if I wanted to add anything, I do appreciate, everyone's hard work as a collaborative town here. And I wanted to address some of your comments about, you sound like you had concerns with quality control and the specifications of that. And I think in the interview process of the general contractors, I would imagine that the building committee would have a part in that selection, and they would have to present a quality control plan as well as a safety plan and all that to us for our consideration of their whole package. And I think quality control is very important, because the last thing we want to do is get to that 13th month of the warranty and certain things happen. So it is absolutely the construction manager's responsibility to ensure they're providing us quality control a plan and a quality control inspections throughout the project. So
somebody trying to save $50,000 now could cost us $1 million later.
Correct,
Or more.
and then that's also a good point that to comment on some of James' stuff is as the project is going through fruition and design, that construction manager should be performing constructability reviews and also bringing value engineering to the table to save on certain things like finishes, as James stated, so.
As long as they bring it to the table,
Right.
as opposed to.
Yeah, understood.
It's not necessary to speak about detail at this point, but if, the project does get underway and we're in that situation, keep the board of finance in mind for some kind of regular, updates, reporting on status, and keep in mind.
Yeah, the administrative aspect of that will be
There'll be-
coordinated townwide, I'm sure.
Okay.
So we'll figure out what the means for regular reporting is, now, and it'll be based on, sequencing. That may vary a little bit at times, depending on the progress of the speed of construction in any given window,
sure.
but,
And what season we're in and.
correct, yeah, so.
Thank you for your feedback on the.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, Bill, oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah, they're
comment, given our reimbursement rate, we've had an opportunity to utilize, long life building products that would be normally inaccessible to the town. So we reduced our operating costs long term for maintenance. I know that's a challenge in the town is maintenance, so I think, when we do the design phase, we really look at long-term operating costs and try to minimize those.
So it's giving us a little bit of an advantage to try and incorporate better quality. Yeah, great.
wow, new idea. Terry, did you have anything? You wanted, okay, about any of the subjects? Okay. Okay. In that case, I thank you, Jim, for that work you're doing there.
But I'll just
For the
say,
presentation.
we've got a really strong, school building committee and a strong team behind us. It's really been a big group effort, and it couldn't have happened in a short period of time.
Jim Marshall hasn't slept for.
I was gonna say, when are you doing your day?
Outstanding work. Thank you, Bill.
So, I'll probably say somewhere at good and welfare, but, I think unless there's anything else on board business, I'm gonna go to presidents to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing for the spec because that used to be my job as a purchasing agent. Try to cut the job. And that's why I'm very aware of it.
And
Okay. Opening the floor for presidents to speak. Anyone online who would like to weigh in? Give you a few minutes. Would you like to weigh in or anyone in the room around? Adam?
Yeah, Adam Salonis, 19 River Road.
Thank you.
Just was asked, if when you guys release the spreadsheets and stuff, the calculations of things for the budget, but just in general, could you please release it in not just a PDF, but an Excel spreadsheet? It's so hard to read the numbers and follow things through. They get downscaled. It's real hard to read them. So if you're trying to check math or just follow the numbers, it makes it hard. I'd really appreciate if you guys could do that. I think it would be easier.
I think, one of the things that's difficult about releasing things in Excel form. I mean, do you mean your documents or any documents?
Just like the town budget, like, we had the numbers
Yeah.
and the breakdowns, just put it out and like, even if it's a CSV file, it doesn't have to be Excel. But something where the numbers are there, we're not trying to look at it as an image that the numbers are real small, it's real hard to follow it, so.
Yeah, I think I had that in one of the documents for this too.
Yeah, I had the same complaint about that, so.
My days of reading 2-point type are over, even with a magnifying glass, so.
Thank you.
Dee Dee? Would you like to identify yourself and your address?
Yes, Dee Dee Jones, Lucian Road.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Well,
Oh, just a little bit more, or are you trying to keep children asleep?
No, they're up.
Okay,
Can you hear me better
thank you.
now? Yes? Okay. Dee Dee Jones, Lucian Road. I again wanted to thank everyone for their time tonight. I was curious what because I know people have mentioned in the past what the new school project is actually going to be like what the numbers are going to be for us, and if it was possible to make uh I think the town treasurer might have ran some numbers before about the education budget and how an increase or a decrease would affect each person, each taxpayer household. I think that would be more helpful for us to kind of gauge what we're really looking at in terms of payments or refunds. So I wanted to throw that out there. I fully support the farmer um assistance for the equipment and everything. So I thank you guys for touching on that, and I don't think I have anything else to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Steph.
Oh, Lisa, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to those that have presented. Jim, you did a great job. And I'd like to mirror Dee Dee, that I do think the town really needs to understand the individual household impact. So if you all could do that based on the Jim, if you could do that and put it in practice, or somebody from the town can do that underneath each column that you presented, that would be that would be very good.
And how would I'm just curious about this,
Yep.
maybe too detailed, but since we're not capturing inflation and, another factor in there now, in other words, they're kind of pure. How do you do that when you're projecting tax impact? Same way?
I think,
Say-
I mean, the way we've approached it is based on the known, based on what we know now. So compared to the point in time that we know, which is the most recent grand list, most recent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
with
think
no
I don't
impact.
think
I rely,
anybody,
obviously,
Stephanie,
that-
I don't think anybody's interested in getting an exact number, because they can do that with their own formulation of the mill rate, their years of being in town, etc. But I do think an approximate number should be offered. Like, people really do and are seeking the unknown, and many people can't decipher what it means to them. And when they see I think that, I think at this point that should be offered.
Sherry, could you collaborate with Jim on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
it's
Thank you.
on the radar.
Dee Dee, did you have a follow-up on that, or was that?
I wanted to expand a little. So, like, let's say the worst year, because I know you guys have predicted costs for the worst year and the best year. Let's say on the worst year, it would cost a household of 200K this much, kind of like they did with the education budget. And then on the best year, it would cost a house of 200K, or give a house of 200K this much if it were today with today's numbers, I think would be helpful.
Thank you. In the
Maybe
room.
whatever the median house.
Well, we'll lean on the
Yeah.
business office to drive that
Yeah.
based on the budgets that we've prepared, but that analysis will probably come from.
Yeah.
You, but we'll definitely work on it, for sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment, didn't we have a chart last time? For the last project where it had like your household value, and you went down the column, and all right, this is what it's going to be,
Yeah,
next year, something like that.
Yeah, we can do something similar.
Anyone else? Steve?
Peter Lipton, 97 Trask Road. I want to return to my earlier request of this board. To carefully look at the cost of this project in each year of the bonding period. and the impact of that cost. In a relatively short period of time between this meeting tonight and the public hearing on the 7th. And assuming you meet again, and you'll have a chance to digest all of this and have a better understanding of that. That's super important because townspeople want to go to that public hearing, understanding what we were all looking at tonight on the bonding schedule. And the public hearing, I'm assuming procedurally, is the only opportunity we have as townspeople to say, yeah, this is great, or no, this is not working for us, and send it back to the board of selectmen. That's certainly a possibility as everyone weighs in the recommendation the SBC has made, and recognize that this will be the first time most townspeople see this, barring the sliver of participation in the poll that was conducted of a handful of people. So, recognizing that, I just want to be clear that the bond amount is 9 million. I'm seeing on the Munistat site here, I like Jim's number better, 9,775,000. I think Jim was saying 80, so I certainly, well, yeah, Jim was higher, so I like this number better, but it's a small amount, but it's 9,775,000. What was kind of not talked about tonight is the total, the interest and the bond amount, is a total of 15,890,000. That is actually the cost of this project for the town, and I want to thank Jim and his group for making that available on the schedule. I think we can all understand that. That number increases if you look at the 3 columns that he shows, or Munistat comparatively shows, the 16,202,000, because if I understand it correctly, they're adding in our current bonding obligations, and that creates a slight increase. So the 16,202,193 is our actual cost, with no offsets, with no anticipated revenues, with no anticipated cost savings. All of those things could occur or not occur in any given budget year, as you guys know, because you do it every year. So the net amount with the offsets is showing as 11,290,000. That is the net cost that SBC thinks this could be, but the raw cost is 16,202,000.
Are you guys frozen?
To achieve that 11 million, but those are not years without cost. We're taking our reserve and applying it if that happens. Again, we don't know what can happen from year to year, so I think it's important for you as you deliberate over this before the public hearing to understand how that works. What's helpful, and I want to thank Jim again, is the next slide where we show the mill rate impact comparison. And there's some footnotes here that I'd asked the Board of Finance to also look at. It's showing, and Jim just alluded to this earlier, the impact in each individual year. But it's saying that, as it says, not cumulative by individual year. And that's great in terms of understanding the impact per year. But in the real world, we all know that's going to be a tax increase that compounds. And I'd like you folks to look at that as well, so the townspeople have a better understanding of that before the public hearing.
I'd like to weigh in.
It also has this helpful.
Just a minute, it's present to speak, please.
I understand that, but it's a little
I also think it's helpful that Jim shows the 4.6 million in capital funds being applied, showing zero impact from 28 to 31. But I'm assuming we could take those offsets, plug them into that chart, and show what those actual costs are, so we know what the real cost of the project is. Certainly, we all welcome efficiencies in school production. We welcome capital fund application. But very important, I think, for you as the financial stewards of our town to understand what the real cost is, present it to our community before we go to the public hearing, so everyone has a good grasp of this and we're not struggling at the public hearing to understand what it is we're purchasing.
So
I think everyone at the table will certainly consider that. The way I understand this, and I think it's for good reason, is these figures that the SBC is providing are what I would call pure figures, where you can see what the actual impact is before you factor in inflation, before you factor in the unforeseen of what happens in our town budgets. And really, I could not, as much as I deal with budgets, could not project any numbers like that for this town, particularly right now. I'm hoping there'll be really handsome numbers in revenues going up because we have some economic interest that comes to town. I think once you start putting in factors that could happen, another pandemic, what have you, you're really, even interest projections to me are outside. I mean, they've got projections of what the bond would cost because they talk to bond experts on it. So that those numbers are trustworthy as far as that goes. But I think to project too much of those ancillary costs, I think you undermine the purity of what the figures are. I think, and there's plenty of, boldface the asterisks and the qualifiers or something, but I think the more you put in an array of factors, the harder it is to really see what the cost is. I realize it's not gonna be, exactly what you're gonna write out for the cost in the end. But I don't see any 20-year project being doable in that way, particularly not now. We have a pretty volatile rate of inflation right now. You couldn't really even deal with that. So that's my sense. That's the way I'm looking at them, understanding if I wanna play with it in a spreadsheet and project some, an across the board 5% increase every year, okay, but our budgets are not increasing at that level. They never have in this town. So what would you use for that? Lisa, did you have something?
yes, so first I want to say, so eloquently said, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being our chairwoman. That's why we have you at the helm. Second, I want to say to Mr. Latinsis, I'm very offended by his presentation. He only speaks from his own point of view, which of course he can. But my present to speak is to say that I've waited 30 years in this town to have responsible growth and services that I can benefit from instead of, and I have only experienced slowing things down, putting in wrenches, not moving the town forward. And it's from the shenanigans that we just heard. And I really am against that behavior. And I really am also offended by the fact that he is saying that we have something to hide. I think the presentation was excellent. So I need to say that in present to speak. Thank you.
Jay, did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, Jim Marshall, Fisher Road, obviously. Yeah, just I to recap, just to make sure that I was clear, the cost of the total amount of bonds, and I know I said this during the presentation, was $9 million, estimated $9,080,000. The total principal and interest over the 20-year life of the bond is $15,890,193. After the use of the 4.6 million, as was previously stated, that comes down to 11.29 million net costs. That does not factor in any of the operational savings. And I just want to make 2 points, because to not factor in the reality of the operational
Mhm.
savings
Right.
is just not an accurate interpretation. Because the reality of this project is that it does afford operational savings, significant operational savings that we have been lacking for years. And it is a result of this project, and it is realizable as a part of this project. The other, trying to remember what the other comment I had was, I'll leave it at that.
Well, I had one other, and that is in terms of any project that would have risen up as the preferred project by, you know, the citizens who participated in the polling that was, you know, and the tours of the school, of Hall School anyway, that any of that would have made use of the money that we've been reserving for this very reason all along. So any projection would have those factored in. When we sold that idea, about saving for what we knew was gonna be some kind of big expense, whether it was gonna be, you know, huge renovations or, a new build or whatever. That's what the process has always been. We've always known we were gonna apply that capital savings to one of those options. So that is not, hocus pocus. That's a plan and a design that is now, coming to, a juncture here, so.
It's also clearly stated.
Oh, there's that too.
So
Yeah.
if you allow me, I
Go
remember what my
ahead.
closing point is. I mean, I want to make sure that, again, as a closing, we want to be sure to see the forest through the trees here. The reality is this project has the opportunity to create these budgetary savings, whereas not realizing this project and trying to maintain our existing two schools is only going to be dramatically by orders of magnitude more expensive for this town in the long run, without any opportunity for budget reductions. That is the comparison here. And that is the important need. Not realizing this project will cost the town significantly more in the long run, way more over the 20-year period, than any bonded amount, without any opportunity for actually seeing the budget reductions that the project is going to entail. So.
Bruce, did you have something?
Nope.
Okay, I thought you were kind of saying, like you wanted to talk.
No.
You were just scratching your head. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But Adam,
I was stretching my arm.
oh, sorry, I
Yeah, so-
just saw it waving and I thought,
Adam
oh,
Willis, One Acre River Road. I just wanted to clarify these numbers in the back of the mill rate impact.
okay,
So if your mill rate was zero today, then in 2028, it would be zero, 2029 would be zero, 2030 zero, 2031 zero. Then in 2032, it would go up to 1.13. 2023, it would be 1.19. We do not add these numbers up. Okay? It is not added. Okay? It is mill rate.
it's not cumulative.
It's not cumulative.
Right,
That's
I
correct.
understand.
So we're not adding these up to a running total. That is not how this is represented. I just want to be very clear. Okay?
We got that, Matt.
Okay, so if your mill rate now is zero, then at 2049, it would be 0.71. According to this direct impact. Okay, that is how the data is written in this chart, and that is how it's correctly interpreted overall.
This is the X factor, not the
Yes.
T factor. Yeah,
This is before
Okay.
offsets, so that includes no operational savings,
gotcha.
anything like that.
Thank you for the clarification. Bill?
I will give you one line. I built my budget is $11 million. I reduced the budget by $800,000 in grants every year. Transparently, you know the money's there. I offset it. I have a $10.2 million budget. Exactly what he has done.
Mhm. Gotcha. Thank you very much, everyone. Not seeing any more online, requests to speak. Okay. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.